our free agents. So looking at this, we only have 2 free agents that are wide receivers, and that's Mecole Hardman. What's his nickname now, Mr. Walkoff, or he was at the celebrity basketball game on Friday, and his back of his jersey, I think it said Mr. Walkoff. I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, walk-off home run. I got you.
Yep. And then Richie James, who JD and I thought was going to have a bigger role in offense this year, didn't really have much of a role in offense, but the few times he did get some playing time, he actually looked pretty good as far as, in getting some receiver reps. His punt return was solid. I thought he did a phenomenal job as our punt returner. We got some consistent stuff out of him. Scared us in the playoffs with that one muff in the Super Bowl, but we got it back, so we're good with that. So those are the only 2 free agents we have offensively here. JD, looking at these 2 guys, I know Hardman, last year he was free agent. We let him go. The Jets pick him up. He comes back to us in the midseason this year. Had a great Super Bowl that he finally tracked a deep ball, had the game winner. What do you think about bringing either one of these guys back? I know we'll get to the totality of the wide receiver room in a second here, but as far as these guys being the only free agents in our wide receiver room, what do you think about these 2 guys?
So, I was a big supporter of bringing Mecole Hardman back, and the reason that is because Mecole Hardman is somebody that we knew, and I said that he would have been our number 1 and number 2 receiver if he hadn't gotten hurt the year before last. And that was true. His contribution in Kansas City has been one that for some is a little questionable. For me, I've loved everything that Mecole Hardman has brought to the team. I think he fits well with what Andy wants to do. How he has been able to utilize Mecole Hardman for his benefit to the team. We understand his value. I see his value of being here. I think he's one of those guys that is, when we talk about the oldest guys in the room, in the group, we know it. And Mecole he's every bit of that. He's every bit of like that staple, if you will, with we seen like a Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, CH. We talking about guys who've been here over this time who have won, Super Bowls, right? In 3 Super Bowls. And Mecole is one of those guys. So how many guys do we have on the team that's won 3 Super Bowls? That's the question.
Well, CH came after the first one, so CH has 2.
Yeah.
Hardman 3, Mahomes, Kelce, Allegretti's been with all of them. Jones, obviously, yeah, there's not many who have been on the team for all 3 of them.
Right, not many. So Mecole Hardman is just one of those guys that have made his name now synonymous with Super Bowls, being with the Chiefs. Okay, and he's been a big part of what we've been able to do to achieve. And people can say in a limited role, whatever that may be, however that works out and how people look at it. But I think Mecole Hardman is definitely a talent. He's a weapon. Patrick likes him. The coaches like him. He's a chief. He's a chief. So I think Mecole wanted to go out and see what he was going to be able to get. Found out that the grass wasn't greener on the other side, right? Who's going to love you like your family? The people that brought you in, and that's the Chiefs family. Obviously, like I said, it could be somewhat of a tumultuous time with others. How they feel about Mecole. I like Mecole. I think he's a good fit for what we do offensively. So I'll say that about him. All right. Now, Richie James. Same thing. I thought he was going to have a bigger part in what we did this season. Didn't quite work out that way. But you could tell, man, he's a solid receiver. He's a solid guy. I think he has a disposition about him that he'll come to work. He'll put in a hard effort. He'll do everything you need to do. And when you need to call on him on particular things, he'll answer the bell. He was one of those guys on special teams where we couldn't find an answer. He gave us one, especially in the return game. So he brought our return game up tremendously for what it was before. Let's be honest. Okay. So his contribution there was something that was needed, and he provided that for us. So I like Richie James. I like him a lot. I like him because he has some of that toughness to him, some of that grit and that grind. He didn't really catch a whole lot of balls this year. We understand that, right? But sometimes when you're looking at the stat sheet, numbers don't always tell you the person's contribution. They don't tell you the whole story. It doesn't. If you look at some of his numbers, it's Miega, numbers. And so nothing's going to wow you at all. But what he was able to do in the return game, and when he came in filtering in, running some routes, he got held a couple of times, throwing some balls to him. I think he's a good receiver. I think he's a really decent receiver, man. Doesn't seem like he has anything trouble about him. He ended up getting hurt, and that's what kind of took him out. But man, I looked at him as being somebody that could always help us. That's how I always look at him as Richie James. So I like both these guys, right? And obviously, let's talk business here. Free agents, I don't think many teams are going to look for these guys to break the bank, to go somewhere. Teams will probably get them on, vet minimum or whatever they can try to get them for. The thing is, if you have a home and they love you there at the home, why leave? I do know that we have to address the wide receiver situation this offseason. What that's going to look like is still, it remains to be seen. But I do say, in my opinion, you probably draft a receiver and you probably get one in free agent. That's probably what you have to do. Okay. We're just talking about the long-term ramifications of what you're doing. That would be my assessment on what you do. And then everybody else around you filter in, right? And pieces. Can Mecole Hardman come and help out this team next year to three-peat? Absolutely. He could do that. Without a doubt, he could definitely do that. Can Richie James? I don't know. When you start talking about bubbles and, spaces for certain guys, you just gotta take a full assessment of everything that's going on. But would I prefer, if I'm saying these two right there, right, Marcus, I'm going to say is preference between these two. If we had to be between these two guys, I would prefer Mecole Hardman over Richie James. If it's going to be something of numbers, right, what we're looking at. But I like both these guys, man. I think both these guys are good team players. The team likes them. So I don't have nothing bad to say about either one of them. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, and they were both assets in their own way. Like, yeah, the numbers didn't really tell us full story with Richie James, but our special teams, when he was hurt, not that Montreal Washington wasn't solid. I mean, he was good for what it was. I mean, it was spot pickup when Richie James was out. He was a solid punt returner. Richie James was for us, and yeah, and at the beginning of the season, you watched some of our shows, we were kind of like, well, you're pretty pissed off about the way our punt return team looked, and he came back and he made our punt return team decent. And Mecole Hardman, obviously, he had the fumble in the Bills game. Really wasn't utilized that much. Comes in, dominates in this in the Super Bowl here, tracking that deep pass, and then obviously the game-winning touchdown. Looking at the numbers, I mean, Hardman. Remember, we didn't. Apparently, there was the rumors that we never even actually threw him an offer. And he ended up signing the offer with the Jets with a 1 year, $4 million. So he thought he was going to get a bigger market, and I thought going into this past offseason, he was going to get a pretty decent deal. And then he got the 1 year, $4 million deal, which I thought was surprising because I thought he was going to be more sought after than he was. I mean, coming off a year that he had this year is not that. I mean, and they practically traded him to us for like a bag of chips, and they paid most of his salary. I think we had 1 year. Based on the numbers here, we had him for 1 year, $720,000. So the New York pretty much paid that entire contract. We just had him for $720,000.
Well, okay, reality sets in for guys. Okay, in NFL. All right, your agents can fluff you to say you're this and you're gonna get this on the market, whatever it may be. Teams may not just be interested. There's several wide receivers that's out there on the street or people that can try to get in. And so the question is, why should they take a chance on you? Right? You may feel like you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Teams may not believe that. They might not buy into that though. right? I mean, that's just that's the reality of it. And so, I think he thought he was going to get more than he did, and rightfully so. He's supposed to think he's going to get more. His agent's supposed to say, "Hey, once go out here and find out to get more," and he went and found out that the demand for his skill set wasn't as high as he thought it was going to be. Not to mention he had just gotten hurt. So we're talking about negotiations and business deals. This is how teams do. This happens in the NFL. I know this better than anybody. Okay,
Yeah,
how
you
these
do.
things, So but that's just reality. And so there's tons of wide receivers each and every year, of players trying to get into the NFL, trying to break down that door. And if people can do it for less money, the same things you can do, teams are trying to find that. So
Yeah.
they only get paid top dollar for top production. That's how it works.
Yeah. No, I did want to, so I said that we paid him about 720. That was his base salary. He had a roster bonus of 150 and then miscellaneous. He got paid $500,000 for that. So overall, his cap hit was about 1.3 million. I believe he signed in New York for about for a 1 year, $4 million deal. So they paid a good chunk of that, probably a signing bonus or whatever. And then we ended up paying him 1.3. So Veach struck gold with a little bargain there with trading I don't even know what it was, a 6th-round pick. And then Richie James, his was 1 year, $1.2 million. So both guys, if we were to bring them back, I don't know if they're going to cost us a lot of money. Hardman may, just because of the touchdown he had in the Super Bowl, but I honestly don't see it. He came off a really good year last year and only could get a 1 year, $4 million deal. This year was significantly worse than his last year going into the season. Yeah, I know he scored the walk-off touchdown, but I mean, if you're talking about the body of work that he did, I don't know if it's going to get him more than a 1 year, $4 million deal. So if he wants to make concessions and stick around in Kansas City, I mean, I wouldn't mind that at all.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and the club could look at it like, hey man, appreciate it, but no thanks. They might let him walk. Because they're just looking for more production. And the thing is, his contribution lies in what he knows offensively about this, right? He knows all the verbiage, all the signals. He knows everything what Pat wants. So you don't have to go through the whole learning curve to try to get into, Mecole Hardman understands that. And so, when you look at, what he was able to do out there on the field, it's like, hey, is that enough? That's a question only the Chiefs can answer.
And I remember that was the reason why we were talking trade deadline stuff. It wasn't so much that oh man, Hardman's going to open up this offense. It was okay. We need a little veteran presence in the wide receiver room, and we need someone who can know the offense now and not have to. You know how it is. I mean, to get people up to speed because everyone talks about the Andy Reid offense. We brought in a guy who already knew the offense for the most part to come in and plug and play right away. Whereas we didn't want to trade for some other guy who doesn't know the offense so much. So I think it was more about the veteran experience within the offense more so than how we feel about Hardman's play. I mean, that's why we didn't really even throw him an offer. So there has to be some of that as well. I mean, it was more convenience for us at the time this year, right?
Well, I mean, for me, I thought it was a little bit more. He's going to bring some juice here. I thought he was going to bring production, because he's done it before. And then, like I said before, if he could have been the 1 or 2 receiver until he gotten hurt. So I see his potential on what he could have brought to the table. And so when we're talking about a guy that could take the top off the defense, who can get behind corners, who run good routes, whose pass could jet sweeps, all that, his specialty. I'm like, he provides it better than anybody else that we can go get. And on top of it, he already knows this offense. So he had all the benefits that we needed. I said we needed a spark. We needed a guy. And to me, Mecole Hardman was that guy that I was, at least trying to get over here to this organization to help out. So,
you were very excited about that addition.
I was.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the free agents here. So, I mean, I think if I were to put my money on it, I would see us bringing back Hardman at the right price. And I don't think he's going to break the bank. I know someone in the comments say he had a good game in the Super Bowl. I just don't see it. I mean, the teams could have had him for nothing at the trade deadline, and we got him a week before the trade deadline for was it like a 6th round conditional pick, and it wasn't a lot. So anyone could have had him for that price.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.